Okay, hey everyone. My name is Jamie Christopherson. I am a film, TV, and video game composer primarily. I also produce songs. I'm getting more into just like songwriting in its own form, but more specifically towards media music. So that's kind of my background there. Let me pull up my presentation and I could talk along with that. And then every once in a while, I'll stop the presentation and check for the chat comment thing. I'm not sure how to keep that open. I'm still getting used to these Zoom things, as you can see. Cool. I need to present. I need to screen share. Hold on one second. All right, starting screen share. Cool. Okay. Anyway, like I said, this little lecture, I decided last time I gave one of these talks, it was more on the creative side, talking about music and media. And so then I came up with an idea to kind of talk about the actually making money on music for media side, which is obviously we all need to make money to put a roof over our heads, feed the families and all that kind of stuff. So, and the funny thing is, the more I got into kind of getting this presentation ready, the more I just went down the rabbit hole. And there's just, it's so complicated. There's so many different avenues of music where you can make money and ways to structure deals and music rights. And like I said, this is just from the US kind of side of things. And if we're going international, it's just, you know, compounds it even bigger. So there's my website. If you ever want to hear some of my work and see some of the projects I've worked on. I have done, as I said, I've done mostly video game music and film and TV, but I have worked almost in every media. So I work in film trailers, music library licensing, some commercial work, although I don't pursue it that much anymore. It's just like kind of a grind. And so I've done a little bit of work for theme parks and things like that. So you know, think of some kind of a media, and I've probably written music for that type of media. Here's a few of my little select game credits. Seem to be most well known for and games for Metal Gear Rising, which is like a heavy metal score. Cool. So here's my email down here. This is a personal email to me. If you have any questions, just feel free to email me at this email. If you want me to pull it back up later, I can at the end of the talk. Disclaimer. I'm not a music lawyer, tax accountant, agent, record industry exec yet. All of the info contained in this document is based on my personal experience and research. Do your own homework and learn about all this complicated stuff, blah, blah, blah. Just had to put it there because as I was going through it, I realized that there's some potential for, you know, misconstruing the information in this thing. So I tried to keep it just as broad and general as possible, but yeah, it's everyone, you know, needs to kind of, you know, consult their own lawyers, consult all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to give stuff from my personal experiences and some maybe recommendations that I want, but I'm not going to go into, you know, too much detail about, you know, lawyer Django and all that kind of stuff. So let's just talk about where we can find money in music for media. All right, hold on one sec. I'm gonna just check, stop the share for 1 second, see if any, I'm just checking the chats for a second. So, okay. Oh, someone has played Metal Gear Rising. Your friend has a tattoo from Metal Gear Rising. Wow, impressive. Yeah, probably the best swag I got was from that game. The clients sent me like which is another perk of working on stuff. Like every once in a while you get some swag sent to you, right? So they sent me like one of those globe kind of things that like has sparks in it. It's like a Tesla coil kind of thing. And so that was pretty cool. I think I put it on eBay at some point. So that's another revenue stream right there. I made an extra $100 off that. So that's what my whole talk is going to be about, being creative with your music deal points. Before I move on, is everyone in here like a composer or in the music business, wanting to get in the music business, trying to find out, where to look to get in, or what is everyone's, I just want to kind of get a gauge for the room. Anyone? Upcoming film composer, perfect. Swen from Madagascar, perfect. So
is it possible when I talk too, or is it too
yeah,
hard to chat?
I could hear you, and that's fine. Just as long as you mute it right after.
Yes, sure.
Did you have a question? Oh yeah, okay, perfect. Nice. So Swen, you're getting into film composing. That's great. Music composing. Hold on a second. There we go. I changed the chat tab. Perfect. So I think you'll get a lot out of this. Music composer for over 20 years. Awesome. Not a composer, but interested in learning how it works. All right, perfect. So that's great. So yay, I geared this talk towards the right crowd. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the little presentation and let's talk about it. Share screen. All right. Okay, as you guys know, there's just so much media out there and they all need music, either original music, licensed music. We got films, TV, video games, trailers, promos, advertising spots, theme parks, music libraries, short films, documentaries, which are a huge thing right now, YouTube videos, branding campaigns, song licensing, miniseries, and the list goes on. I've worked in all of these types of media. There's a lot more types of media than this, but these I think are like the main ones right now. Like branding campaigns. I don't really publicize it that much, but I've actually branded Samsung phones for 3 years now. So if you guys have a Samsung Galaxy phone or something like that, you probably have some of my music in your phone. And I got a penny for every phone that's sold. No, I'm just kidding. If I got that, I would be a multi-billionaire. So no, unfortunately, I was not able to get, and we'll go into that. I was not able to get royalties or anything like that off of every phone they have sold. They're way too smart for that. Okay. Okay, and now within these different media, there's just so many ways to structure deals. So when we think about music, I like to just think about it in terms of upfront fees and back-end fees. That's like the overarching kind of, when you get started on a project, you don't want to, you want some money up front to entice you to give her your work and give, do a great job up front. So like, I love deals where I structure them where they give me like a third of the money for a media project up front. If you can get more than that, great. That way there's skin in the game for your client and for you as well. And so once that transaction kind of happens, you feel like, oh yeah, everyone is invested and involved. If you wait till like the end, say, nah, just pay me everything at the end, there's an opportunity for error there, like where they can, going into it too deep now probably, but let's keep this talk positive. Okay, so going back over here, when you're negotiating conditions on a project, you should keep the upfront money and the back end. When I say back end money, I mean music royalties. There's different royalty streams. The main one that a composer or a songwriter gets is called performance royalties. And that is anytime, now we're talking about the US mainly, but most other countries as well. Anytime like a show or a film is publicly broadcast on like TV or movie screen, then the composer hopefully will see royalties on the back end. That's a huge business, I believe. BMI and Ascap both reported like $1.2 billion in royalty money for last fiscal year, which is just massive. But that includes all songwriters. So, all right. So one example I write here is if the producer does not have a lot of money to pay up front in a compositional fee, in that case, you should probably negotiate more of a percentage of performance royalties, the back end, as a publisher or as a writer, and quite possibly go for a music licensing agreement rather than a work for hire, which I'll get into that shortly. But here's just a few types of income that you can get from music and media: upfront work fees, performance royalties, licensing fees, points on the media. This is very rare, although in indie films, they'll sometimes say, oh, I'm gonna give you points. Never, I would not recommend doing that because it just means you're never gonna get paid. They'll do some kind of a creative bookkeeping where you're not gonna see a point. That said, I know one or two people that in the early days of video game composing did get points and they became millionaires on those. Musician conducting fees, these are usually unionized. Like in LA, we have the AFM union. Extra management fees, that's like these are little things to, kind of cushion your bottom line, as I would say. All right, what do we got here? Oh, before I get into this, let me just see if anyone has questions. Oh, no questions. I'll move on. Cool. So I'm just going to give a few real world examples of the media that I've worked on. Kind of what to expect from different types of media if you haven't worked in one of these media. These are like the general, and of course, with anything, it's like these can change for sure. I love work on films because I like long form entertainment where I can develop main themes, and they have a long shelf life for future royalties. So movies that I scored when I was starting out for like the Sci-Fi Channel, almost 20 years ago, are still playing in various parts of the world, and I'm still seeing royalties for those uses. So you never know, things are like kind of cyclical, especially with the kind of desire for so much content in the world right now. Like you could have a country like Madagascar that wants a bunch of really bad sci-fi movies on their TV channels or something, and then that's great. Then I get paid eventually for that. Okay, so typical agreement for films from medium to higher thing is a work for hire, which I will explain that a little bit more. Sure, most of you guys know the concept already, but upfront range from basically $1 or $0 to millions of dollars for the top 1% A-list composers. Let's see. Project scope, yeah, films depends on the film, but they have a lot of minutes of music. So usually they just pay a flat fee, and they don't break it down by minute of music. It's just like, you're going to score a film for $10,000, regardless of we have 40 minutes of music or 80 minutes of music. Obviously, when you are making a deal, you want to have that in your mind, though, because how long is it going to take you to write 40 minutes versus 80 minutes of music? And it's not always linear, because I've had projects where I only had to write 30 minutes of music, but they take longer than to do 60 minutes of music because of the type of music that you're writing. Project length, 4 to 8 weeks. That's about 1 to 2 months is somewhere in that range, I think, is normal. Royalties on the back end, yes. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but you can, if you're smart, you can negotiate publishing share for back end royalties. In this talk, I didn't go too much about writing versus publishing, but basically in performance rights royalties, the back end, it's split into 2 parts. 50% for the writer and 50% for the publisher. Typically, when you do a work for hire for a company, they maintain the publishing share and you maintain the writing share. So you guys would, when BMI or someone sends out a check, they'll split it in half. That is negotiable. Publishing share, you don't have to assign your publishing share away. If you have a lot of clout in the business, you can get that back. So you can even get 100% of that back for back-end royalties. Or if it's a low budget film, for sure, don't give them publishing share. If you're going to do a film for $100, do not sign your publishing share away. Just put it in your contract and say, since I'm not getting any money up front, I want money on the back end. And that's one way to recollect in the future. Hopefully they have a good distribution idea. Let me see, I think someone's trying to come in. Hold on. Okay, they came in, cool. All right, second. Any questions before I move on? Nope. Okay. So let's move on with some more examples then. Share screen. Okay. TV, streaming shows. Most composers that I know really love working on TV because it's steady work every week for 12 to 20 weeks or something like that, and possibility of multiple years. So they get picked up for another season. Well, dang, that's great. They just made a lot of money on that call. It is very stressful because I've worked on a lot of TV shows as assistant, helping out the main composers. It's something I like to do, actually, is come in and help guys out in their sound. And so I've worked on shows like Homeland and a lot of Showtime shows, actually. It's also work for hire, upfront budget range. It could probably get lower than 5K if it's like a little tiny cable show or something. And goes up from there depending on project scope, depends on the length of the show, obviously. 10 to 40 minutes of music, I would say, per episode. Usually this is the stressful part, is usually you're chasing like every week. So you deliver on like a Friday and then you're back to working on a Sunday or something. One day off if you're lucky. So say a show had 40 minutes of music in 1 week. So what is that? Say you only have, 5 days to work on it. Or what's that? 8 minutes of music per day. That's a lot of minutes of music. That's why, that's where the help comes in, things like that. Or music editing, which is something I really didn't get into on this, but okay, royalties, same thing as films on this. Let's move on. Video games, I got my start in video games, my professional start. It's also work for hire. And now we're talking about like mainly like AAA or next to that, kind of games is what I'm talking about here. Not like mobile games, which I didn't even have on that list. That's a huge market right there, right? For indie and mobile games. So those will be typically a lot lower than this kind of stuff. Upfront budget depends on the scope of the game. So now we talk about scope here. I didn't really mention this here, but video games are typically calculated for budget on a different scale. So usually they do say per minute of music. So say you're going to get $1,000 per minute of music. I guess I didn't put that here, but that's what it is. So that's typically video game producers like to work in that. So you get, say I'm going to write 30 minutes of music and they have a budget of $1,000 a minute. They're going to pay you $30,000. And then obviously one thing that I like to do is, that's great, but if sometimes if they hire you for more minutes of music, then you can lower your minute rate, and kind of do like little package deals and things like that. That's one way to kind of entice them to hire you for more minutes of music too. Usually project lengths are extended, like films, but video games work in phases a lot, especially a big game. Like you'll be on for a month and you'll take 2 weeks off while the team is working on a new set of cinematics or something like that. Royalties, no and yes. So back in royalties, like I said before, it depends on public performance use. Video games are not considered public performance. So they're considered just like if you bought a DVD or something like that and popped it into your DVD player. Well, you're not going to get any royalties from that or from a video game because it's the choice of the consumer, what game they want to, own, because they basically own the game. So there's no royalties on that. But then I say, and yes. So that said, there are secondary markets, which I'll get into shortly, for video game music. For example, if they do a soundtrack release, if a lot of people watch like a music video of your music on YouTube, then that'll trigger certain things. If the game company is smart, they understand the value of music past the shelf life of the game. There are a few video game companies that have started to wise up to this, and I'll get into that shortly as well. Commercials. I did a spot for, what's this girl's name? Megan Fox. Is a Armani Code commercial. which I don't do a lot of commercials because I prefer long form projects, but that one kind of fell into my lap and it was really fun. Actually, it was just a perfume spot that I did a few years ago. The pay can be really, really good for commercials, but super intense competition. So often they'll have you do like changes, like you're at like version 20 and everyone's got an opinion and there's like 10 producers. And so it can be a little intense sometimes. So that's why personally, I don't pursue it that much, but if something cool falls in my lap, then I'll do it. Upfront budget range, it really varies a lot. Oh, typical agreement on this one. This can be a work for hire if they want something very specific for it, but often it's also a licensing deal where they want a non-exclusive license, either from a music library, could be your music library, could be a music library that you're a part of. Or if they do something original for it, you can still do a like a sync master license to them, so you can use the music for other things in the future. Scope 30 seconds, project length 1 to 7 days or longer, I don't know. But they're usually pretty fast turnarounds. Royalties, yes, advertising is registered differently than film and TV with the PROs. There's like some paperwork that you just kind of fill in there, and they just pay it a little slightly different than a film or a TV show. Okay, wait. What was I doing there? Oop. I went over some of this stuff already, but so you landed the gig. Now this is what I'm trying to get at is get creative on your deals. There's no set path on how to structure it. You can, in the US, composers don't have a union. They're not organized union. They used to be a long time ago for a period of time, but and some people are always talking about trying to get composers unionized. And there's always a big pushback, of course, as well. That said, musicians and conductors do have a union. It's called the American Federation of Musicians. And there's also, for singers, there's SAG-AFTRA. So if you're gonna do songs on a big, movie production, then it's something you might consider as well to join SAG-AFTRA. But I don't want to get too much into union talk on this. Okay, so I think let's give like little 2 examples. You land a small indie film. They have a very limited budget. In this case, I would push to do a music license with them instead of a work for hire. I keep saying we're going to get into work for hires, but let's see. Where is the work for hire? Sorry, I'm going. There it is. Let me just skip here to work for hire real quick because I keep talking about it. And then I'll go back. 90% of all the projects that I do are usually work for hire. That is, the film, TV, game company hires me to write music, and then they own all the copyrights of the work, the master, recording, and the composition. However, it doesn't mean I'm not entitled to performance rights on the back end. You just have to make sure it's in your agreement. There should be a clause in your agreement that says composer is entitled to receive 100% of writing share. Without getting into too much trouble here, there's been a few companies that have recently dabbled their toe in trying to buy out music artists' back-end rights in the US. There was a notoriously Discovery Channel was about to do that, require all their composers to sell, basically give away all their writing share back-end royalties. And there's a huge backlash of that. And luckily they backed down and let it go. I would just say never to give those things away if you can help it. I've never given my writing share away. I mean, if I collaborate with an artist and a writer, then yes, we're gonna be co-writers on it. But to give your writing share royalties away to a production company is, in my book, a major no-no, and it sets a really bad precedence. And we'll get into how that could impact you down the road too. Anyway, I took this from the US copyright website, just in case none of you know what a work for hire is. This basically spells it out. It's without going into detail, but let's just hop down here. Basically, it's a work specifically ordered for or commissioned for use. So a production company is going to commission you for the work, and now they own the work. So there you go. Yeah, like if you work at a company, often they'll make you sign a work for hire agreement as well. Like, so any work that you create on the job is theirs to own. Okay, let's go back up. Okay. Now on this little indie film, on example 1, I suggest that we do a music license with them instead of a work for hire, where you maintain all the rights to the music to use in the future. Then you could use the music for music libraries or other films, soundtracks, YouTube. You would have control over what you want to do with it. So if a film only had, like, I don't know, $1,000 for you to score or something like that when you're starting out, really try and structure the deal, I would say, to do a music license, a non-exclusive music license deal. So basically you're licensing the music that you compose, and it still can be original, but you're licensing the music that you compose for non-exclusive use in that film. And then you can go ahead and sell that music to a music library, and then they could license it to TV shows and stuff like that, and you keep all the back-end royalties and all the sync royalties, sync fees too, if that's something that you get. Okay, example 2, you land a video game and they want a full orchestral score. They have an all-in budget to pay you, which is very typical, and want you to decide on the orchestra. In this case, you would want to make sure to hire an orchestra that's obviously within your budget. The less you pay for a budget, the more you keep. So if you got $20,000 as an all-in fee for composing and an orchestra, and they're expecting you, make sure you put this in the agreement, by the way, what they're expecting. Are they expecting with this all-in fee as for you to record an orchestral score? The best, what I do on my agreements, is to have a clause that says up to the composer's choice or something like that. They might want you to put it in their thing, but so basically, now you've got $20,000 as a all-in fee. You're not going to want to hire. You're not going to have enough money to hire, Los Angeles with the union, or even though ideally that's the goal, is to hire the best orchestra. So you're going to want to find an orchestra that's great, but will leave you some money or whatever you're comfortable with. That said, early in my career, I am a proponent, if you have the means to do it, to put, this is kind of a tricky subject because I don't know what situation you guys are in, but like before I had too many responsibilities, I put a lot of the creative fee into live musicians, even some orchestras. And I even went into the red on 1 or 2 projects when I was starting out, to basically to prove that I could do this product that was amazing. I wouldn't recommend it for every project, but you gotta, you know, when you're starting out, you gotta prove that your music is above everyone else. And sometimes you gotta invest in yourself, invest in your music to do that. Okay, it's important to have music that stands out. Great. So let me just see, I'm gonna stop sharing for 1 second. Any questions right now or before we move on? You gotta unmute your guys' self as well if you wanted to ask me a question.
Yeah, I have one question. Could you explain the difference between the master and the composition?
I'm about to get to that actually, yes.
Okay.
You mean the 2 music rights?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great, super important question, and I'm about to start covering that soon. Yeah.
Nice.
All right, cool. So I'll get back to it. By the way, that question is very complicated. I've been doing this a long time and still learning stuff every day about. It's notoriously complicated. Hold on a sec. Where is? Oh, there it is. Is this the one? Yeah. There we go. Okay. Oh, yep. It's my next slide. Exactly what you just asked. Perfect. What are the music rights? Now I'm going to be very simplified here because they're, like I said, it's complicated. What are the 2 major song rights? Master or recording rights and composition rights. So understanding the 2 parts of music copyrights is an important concept. It's quite complicated, and there are many avenues of income associated with the different parts of musical rights. Okay. So basically, the master right is the actual sound recording of the music. The master copyright holders are usually record companies, production companies, songwriters, composers who haven't signed these rights away. So say you're working on a soundtrack and you know, you work with, anyway, you did a work for hire. So now you sold, how do I put this? It's the actual recordings of the sounds. So like Star Wars, the original like recordings of the Star Wars score in London, for example, that's the master. Or like a Beatles song, like when the Beatles sang it, like the sound recording, that is 1/2 of music rights. So those are super important to have, because if a film wants like a Beatles song or something like that, they have to secure both rights if they want that exact song, like I Want to Hold Your Hand or something like that. So they would need to record to get sync master rights to not only the actual recording, but also the composition rights. The composition is the underlying song. So think about like if you're just composing a song at the piano or something like that, well, there's just a composition underneath it with lyrics and music. It's not the actual recording. It could be, you just write it on a piece of sheet music, you know, and that's the actual composition. So does that make sense? No? Those are the two rights. Within composition rights, composition copyrights are typically held by publishing companies or songwriters, composers. Technically, once you write a song, it's automatically kind of written, you know, put under your name, but technically you should say you're just writing a song on your own. Well, you should send that song to the U.S. Copyright Office, just to make sure that it's copywritten for you. Now, when you do a work for hire agreement, you sign both of these rights away. So it means that the production company now owns the master recordings and they own the compositions in a work for hire. Now that, and I'll get into this next, that doesn't mean you can't still get back end royalties. Like if the music is used for other things, you just have to make sure that that's in your agreements with the game companies, or with the film or whatever company. So then you participate in back end deals. But once you sign that work for hire away, it's like, yeah, then they could do anything they want with the composition. You don't have control anymore. Okay. I did not make this. I just, and we don't need to go into this too much about royalty flowchart, but basically, I just wanted to show you how complicated it is. People do all these flowcharts for music royalties and their music rights, and they're always just so complicated. But we can look into this real quick. As you see this word sync here, that means syncing with a film or a TV. So when a TV show wants to use like a song or something like that, they have to get sync rights from both the master right holders and the master right holders and the composition holders, or the composition rights holders. They have to get both if they want to use a specific song in a film. If they wanted to just do like a cover of like a Beatles song, then they would just need to get the composition sync rights, not the master rights, and then they could do their own master. We can't go too deep in the rabbit hole there, but performance royalties, we talked about that. Mechanical royalties, I'm not going to get into these too much today. It's basically if someone does a cover of your music, these are the rights that you get. So if you put out a song, and anyone who wants to do a cover version of that song, because once a song is in the universe, anyone by US law can do a cover of that song and put it up, but they do have to pay you a statutory mechanical rate. And this is just changing all the time, especially with all the streaming services. So this is complicated. We're not even going to get into this today. Okay, let me see. I have to, okay, someone left. No, biggie. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So where are we? Let's move on. Works made for hire. So all that being said, music has a life beyond the original production. In case you didn't know, in the US, copyright of an artistic work, be it a book, music, any kind of artistic work, it goes 70 years after the death of the author before entering public domain. So like songs written in the 1800s or the early 1900s are possibly in the public domain if the original author has been dead for 70 years. So obviously that's a long time to receive possible royalties and income from the use of that music. It's basically to your grandkids or maybe even great grandkids get to reap the benefits of public performance royalties in the future. Music written for one project can totally have a life beyond what is originally written for. Think about how songs like Bohemian Rhapsody can be licensed for a movie, and then that drives new sales of Queen albums. So that's a great thing about music. One of the best things about doing music for media is that, for example, you can't take the cinematography of a film and apply it. You can apply the style, but the original cinematographer is not going to see a royalty based on, you know, their cinematography or any other thing. Music is really the main thing that can translate and make a good deal of money, like beyond the original use of the production. So these are just things to keep in mind, that the music has value and all that. Ideally, you would own the rights to all your music, but at the very least, then make sure you're entitled to the public performance royalties in the future. All right, here's a real life example from me. I snipped off some information. So this is persona non grata. This is a track that I wrote originally for a video game called Command and Conquer, produced by EA Games. EA is smart about their secondary use of music. They basically sold the rights to much of their catalog from video games to a company called APM Music, a music licensing company. APM has many TV deals, and this track has earned me a lot of extra income in random shows, such as, I guess, Smithsonian Most Daring Raids, yeah, World War II. Anyway, this is just one little example of a little tiny track that I did for a video game having a secondary life. And it's just every statement that I get from my organization always has a ton of this track being used. So it's like, yes. So here you could see, and yes, I composed the music for a very fun film called Boa vs. Python, which is still playing. I wrote that a long time ago. You might laugh, but snakes are no laughing matter when it comes to making money. I did a silly project when I was starting out for Sci-Fi Channel for really, it was like super low. But over the past 15 years, it continues to play and has earned me thousands of dollars because it's just playing in totally random countries, and it's great. So yeah, so the back end royalties probably, you know, have earned, I'm not going to say a number, but they earned, you know, at least, you know, 5 times what I got up front, you know, because it was just a little tiny dinky film. They didn't have much money for it, but then it got like a little cult following, and I don't know, who knows? So here are the PROs, performing rights organizations. In the US, we have 3, BMI, Ascap, and CSAC. As a writer, you should research and choose the one ASAP. If you're writing music and putting it even on YouTube or something like that, and you haven't joined a PRO, I really highly suggest you join a PRO. It's free to join, I believe, as a writer. And as a publisher, it's super cheap, like $100 or something. I don't know. Speaking of, yeah, I haven't really talked too much about writing versus publishing, other than I briefly mentioned it enough for today. But you can join all 3 of these organizations as a publishing company, which is cool to know. And the PROs, like if you join one of these groups, BMI or ASCAP, they will collect performance royalties from all over the world. It just takes them time to do it, and you don't have to worry about any of that. So they take care of that. You just have to register the songs and cue sheets with your organization here in the US if this is where you join. Let me just stop it real quick. Oops, someone said, yay, Command and Conquer. Nice. Is anyone in here a composer and not joined with a PRO or someone like that? I wonder how it works like in Madagascar, like what the PRO is like there. I'm sure you probably just have one.
I'm a member of SACEM in France, so it's easier than in Madagascar, for sure.
Perfect. So you should definitely do it in the home country where you do most of your work, for sure. Because all the PROs basically talk to each other, and they exchange the information and money to each other. So so that's good.
And you said we can be a member of one of them as a writer. Is that correct? I can't be like a member of Ascap as a composer because I already subscribe to SACEM. Is that correct?
I'm not sure about being one member of a foreign agency and a member of a US agency. You would have to contact BMI or Ascap and ask them that question.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know the answer.
Okay. Yeah.
I just know that in the US, you have to choose one if you're as a writer. But like I said, as a publisher, you can join multiples. And why would that be important? For example, if you are writing songs for film and TV, and you co-wrote with like now you have your own publishing company. Say you co-wrote your BMI and you co-wrote a song with an ASCAP writer, right? Well, if you're putting in all the money into the song, right, but you just co-wrote it for him, then you probably want to be the publisher as well. But the publishing and the writing has to actually match up 100%. So if you have a 50%, a song is written half by a BMI composer, half by ASCAP composer. Well, now you have to have two publishing companies, one half BMI, one half ASCAP. It has to match the percentages exactly. So that would be a case where you would want to have two publishing companies, one with BMI, one with ASCAP. And then when you register that song, that's how you put it down on there. Okay, moving on. And I'm just noticing the time. Let's see, it's 2:25. So I guess we're getting to the end here or something. Let me just skip ahead a little bit then. Music, media, financial checklist. Join a PRO. Periodically check the PRO. Once you get like a royalty statement, I always like to kind of check it, see what's playing where. Start your own music production company. That's and on the side there, I said, why start a company? It is a little bit more costly in terms of doing your, setting up the company. It's like in California, we had to pay a corporate tax fee of like $800 a year. So it is a little more costly, but in my opinion, if you're doing a lot of media work, it's definitely worth it. Some of the advantages are liability protection, more customer confidence. Like some customers really want to work with a company instead of an individual. And then tax and accounting stuff and blah, blah, blah. Hire a good accountant to help you check your bookkeeping. A good lawyer. That's really important when you're first starting out and you don't understand the contractual language of deals with production companies, is to have like a good entertainment and music lawyer who's familiar with these things, to at least hire them to run by the agreement and have them explain to you what all the deal points mean, so you can start to understand it. And then the more you do the work, the more you'll just recognize these things, these boilerplate kind of things. Look up other revenue streams like sound exchange, neighboring rights. At the start to the pandemic, I had obviously a little bit more time to start researching into some of these things. And I didn't even really know about a thing called neighboring rights, which I still am not quite 100% sure how those are collected, but it has something to do with international royalties for artists. Anyway, long story short, I hired a company that found me some good money from these neighboring rights that were basically sitting in bank accounts in foreign entities. And so I didn't even know they were there. And had I, not taken the time to kind of research that kind of stuff, it's, yeah. So that has something to do with artist rights. Like if you're having like a soundtrack somewhere like in Brazil or something like that, then they have like this fund for neighboring rights. Anyway, be flexible and creative in deals. That's the number one takeaway I'm trying to get to you guys, is to be smart. And people in your financial team, yourself, I really want to emphasize that you shouldn't count on anyone else. I mean, have a great team, yes, but in the end, you're your best agent, accountant, deal maker. You should know your business. Agents can be great, but only when it's a great fit. Lawyer, when striking out, like I said, it's always good to have a good lawyer in your pocket. Accountant, assistant, who helps with cue sheets, organizing, stuff like that. Co-partners, collaborators from companies that represent you. Like I work with Halp for some stuff. That's what they do. They recommend people to companies they work with. It's good to have partnerships wherever you can. Even like hire a friend to help you look for work and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Be creative, have fun, so much opportunity if you're diligent. Be creative. Questions? I made it. I guess, yeah. If you guys have any other last questions, otherwise we can call it a session here. Any other last questions? No.
Yeah. I have one question. Is there a difference between an agent and a manager for a composer?
It's a blurry line. Yeah, and everyone kind of works differently with that. I would say mainly an agent is supposed to get you work or structure deals in your best interest to get you more money. Mm-hmm. And a manager is supposed to, I guess, take like a more holistic approach to, your.
So would you say an agent also get in touch with a lawyer?
I would say when you're starting out, you're not going to get an agent right away. And the agent really can't help you out that much when you're starting out. You've got to be your own agent and be creative with how you find jobs. But an agent, I've had agents, and right now I don't have an agent. And I'm working more than ever right now. just because of, you know, how long I've been doing this and word of mouth, and I'm just a go-getter, you know. An agent is great if it's a good fit, for sure. They could introduce you to people to bring you up to the next step, you know, jobs that you wouldn't have access to. But when you're first starting out, you know, don't spend too much time looking for an agent. But get someone to help, like maybe hire someone to act as like a manager for yourself, and yeah.
Thank you. Good advices.
Cool. All right. I guess if there's no more questions, then I'm going to sign off. Yeah? And feel free. You have my email.
There is one question from Yuichiro. No.
Yeah. Where's the question? I don't see it.
When she's raising the hand, but.
Oh yeah, you just unmute yourself. Can I?
Sorry. I'm from Japan, and I'm not a. First of all, I'm not a fluent English speaker, but I got a question for you. Can you trust pros like BMI or Ascap? I mean, do you have a way to double check how they do or what they do? You give 100% to what they have been doing for the last.
Am I happy with what they've been doing?
Mm-hmm.
Very.
So
yeah. I've been with BMI the whole time. I'm very happy with BMI.
Okay.
Now I can't check. It's impossible to be able to check every place that shows the show. You have to trust that they catch it. Now that's why I said, like, after I get like a royalty statement or whatever, I go through it and I look and see if I knew, for example, something was playing on like Hallmark when it should have been reported on that schedule, right? They do allow for a window to kind of report those things, because things do fall through the cracks sometimes, not to anyone's fault, you know. It's just there's just so much stuff. So
okay. The reason I asked you this is, of course, we got the same thing in Japan, which is called JASRAC, but in many cases they don't trust what they do because the commission fee is not ignorable. I mean, the money they take is not small.
They take a big fee. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't speak for what JASRAC, what fee.
Yeah, but what do you think about the BMI or Ascap?
They have employees. They need to pay their employees.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And it's a lot of work. So I don't know. I can't complain really, but
okay. So, but anyways, you think it's reasonable?
I think so.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Alternatively, you could probably not sign with them or something, and then you have to go and do it yourself. And like, I don't think it's sustainable. Like, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to hear that.
Okay. Anyone else? No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to sign off, you guys.
Thank you for this
nice
presentation.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Bye.